Every day we are at the center of a constant competition for our attention, and we consume an endless stream of content and often lose the time and space to process information critically. And in this environment, the truth does not simply surface on its own, and it has to be defended. And today we take a closer look at how that defense works in Catalonia, the autonomous region in northeastern Spain. And introducing myself first, hi, I'm Victoria. I'm very happy to host today's episode of the Intelligence Spotlight series. This is actually my first time hosting it, which makes it even more special because today's guest is someone I personally met and learned from during a master's class at the Goethe Institute in Lisbon. Please welcome Alba Tobella. Hi, Alba. Alba is a journalist with extensive international experience. She worked as a correspondent for the Social Press and Agence France Press in Colombia and Uruguay, and as a freelance reporter in Mexico, contributing to various range of international media outlets. Alba, you hold a degree in journalism and in literary theory and comparative literature from the University of Barcelona. And you are the co-founder and director of Verificat, the first independent fact-checking platform in Catalonia. Verificat is dedicated to verifying political discourse and content on social media and also educating the public about how to critically evaluate information. Alba, it's a pleasure to have you here today. How are you doing?
Hi, Victoria. Thanks a lot for having me. Thank you for this kind presentation. It's a pleasure being here.
Before we dive right in, I have a little icebreaker question for us, or for you especially. While I was looking a little bit at your CV and your life, I was seeing that you spent quite a lot of time in South America. And I was wondering if there's like a favorite dish you have from that time and something like you still think about today and sometimes miss and sometimes have days where like, I would really like to eat that dish.
Miss every piece of food from Mexico, especially. Food is delicious there.
Okay, so no specific dish. It's just like Mexican cuisine in general.
Yeah, in general, it would be like choosing between mom and dad. So let's keep it saying that Mexican food is the best in the world.
Well, since we're already talking about international dishes, you had quite an international career in journalism before founding Verificat. When you're looking back at your career, would you describe your path into journalism more of a straight line and you knew already after school what you want to do? Or is this something which evolved over time?
Well, when I was a student at the journalism college in Barcelona, I always wanted to be a foreign correspondent, and I went straight to do this. So in my Erasmus in Rome, I interned in the Associated Press bureau there, and right after I finished my studies, I moved to Mexico as a freelance correspondent, and then joined the international agencies you mentioned.
So it's something like you've been dreaming about since early on?
Yes, I've been dreaming about being a foreign correspondent, and it happened that when I was 30 years old, I already had done this, and I started to feel that living abroad forever would maybe feel quite lonely, and I started to think that I should go back home and start a career in Barcelona.
Before we dive a little deeper into the fact-checking world itself, I was wondering if you could give us a little definition of what fact-checking is for you.
Fact-checking is a practice in journalism that is related to proofread some content, and it started to be a practice for the magazines and newspapers in the US as early as 1910. And well, it's this practice that editors do when a piece is written, and they go and fact check what has been written before publishing. That's called internal fact checking. But in our time of the internet and social media, all the content that is being published has not necessarily been proofread by other journalists, or not even written by journalists. So fact-checking became something that we do externally to the media outlets, and it's a practice that started to appear as early as in the 90s, when the internet started to boom in the world, but it gained a lot of importance in 2010, 2015, when all these social media platforms allowed information spread virally online with no control. So the International Fact Checking Network, which is the organization that is certifying all our activities, was born in 2015, and that's when a lot of other organizations like Verificat started to appear around the world. We started our activity in 2019, but during these 3, 4, 5 years, the community has spread all over.
Right. Maybe for listeners outside of Spain, could you briefly explain why this kind of organization maybe is special or was needed in Catalonia, and maybe how the Catalan media landscape is different? Also, is it different to Spain or different to the rest of Europe?
Well, it's kind of special. Catalonia has its own language, its own culture, its own politics and economics. So we thought that it was important that there was a fact-checking organization born in Barcelona and with this Catalan point of view. Even though we are strongly connected to our community, I was saying before, their colleagues in Madrid and their colleagues all over Europe, but the specificity the Catalonia has always had its own media landscape, and in this sense, we thought important to launch Verificat. And also, by the time we created the platform, there was a very strong political conflict regarding the national movement in Catalonia, which created a lot of polarization, and every polarized society has also a lot of disinformation. So we found it especially relevant at the moment to create a platform like ours.
Okay, so that's very interesting to know how, like, what political topics kicked it off to understand why maybe this was even needed. But now, I mean, 2019, it's almost 7 years since you've founded Verificat. And I was wondering how the fact checking has developed over time, like in your day-to-day work. What has changed, and maybe what are the biggest shifts you can see now over the past of the 7 years? And most importantly, what role does AI play even today? Also, I'm sure like if it has reached every corner of the internet now, right?
Well, at the beginning, we were kind of outsiders or aliens talking about disinformation. People had some concepts about this so-called fake news, but as we know, disinformation is a much bigger phenomena. And we were quite lonely talking about this, and the community was still quite small. Well, we were mostly targeting specific contents, which we call claims. We were fact-checking specific messages that had gone viral, or one video out of context, and some disinformation more isolated, let's say. Nowadays, Trump has already won 2 elections. I think the society and social and media landscape and the authorities, even everyone is very worried about disinformation. The World Economic Forum said last year this is the most important threat worldwide, and it's really a threat to our democracies. And now it's quite a mainstream subject, and everybody is very worried about. So what changed is the impact of disinformation, and the sense that organizations like ours are very important. And at the same time, 5, 7 years ago, we had the small faith that our work would be useful. Now we are not that sure about it. Like disinformation content became huge narratives, and it comes from east and west, and it comes from the inside, and it's a phenomenon that I don't think anymore that we can be positive about the future of the disinformation impact on society.
That's interesting. Can you maybe elaborate on this a little bit? Like you said, you're not so sure now anymore. What do you mean with that?
That we've been trying so hard to do our job, and we will keep trying, but now we see that this information is so well designed and so well coordinated, and it works so well that it really has an impact on our democracies. People are not believing anymore some of the basics of the our democratic systems, and well, that's also related to this information.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that is very true. That kind of leads me to the next question I already had. What, in your opinion, if you feel if people are actually becoming more critical of what they consume, or if you feel that it's becoming even less? And who at the moment would you say is most vulnerable to disinformation?
Well, I don't know if people is becoming more critical. I think most of people are becoming more aware of this information. So there is this sense of not believing anything. You mentioned AI before. Now everything is potentially an AI generated content. All cute cats on the internet are not real anymore. And this is only an example to say that anything can be fabricated or built. We do workshops of media and information literacy and critical thinking, and they are very well received. But talking with people around, like teenagers or anyone, are starting to feel that the internet is not a safe place. It's more a place of content that is maybe false or suspicious, or a place just for the fun, but not a place where you can be sure or confident about what you read or what you consume.
Yeah, I'm kind of like jumping back and forth because you already like mentioned this now, which kind of brings me to the work of Verificat, which you also do with like media literacy and educational work you do for schools and universities, right? And I was just wondering, so often we talk about younger people, educating them on how to read the internet and kind of almost getting like a license for the internet. But what about the older generation? I often see that people are quite worried about their parents because older people are also using more and more the internet now. How do you see them being vulnerable to this information?
Well, the older generation is not an homogeneous um, one kind of profile. They can be from 65 to 95, and they are from very different contexts and very different backgrounds. So that's starting point. But yes, while we were at school or high school and internet appeared, we had the time to check a little bit and investigate and have fun on the internet while they were working. So they weren't as used as we were um, using this kind of tools. So now that they are retired and they have a lot of time or free time, they receive a lot of content that they don't have the tools to identify if it's true or not. They spend a lot of time on Facebook or YouTube, and they receive a lot of content from WhatsApp, and that's what makes them more vulnerable in the sense that they are not used to receive all this kind of information online. Well, now they are used to it, but not 10 years ago when all of this started. So what I see in this generation is that they are very polarized in front of the content. When they first you approach them and you explain how to find trust space online and how to take care of themselves in front of disinformation, they start to be more fearful, and they think that everything would be fake. No, so they are not as flexible as the young generation. On the other hand, they are more they're more able to identify trustworthy sources, where to find good information, and they have much more background from their own lives, so that makes them more strong or stronger than the teenagers on the internet. So yeah, every generation has its own vulnerabilities and its own strengths to face critically information online.
Okay. Yeah, and maybe taking a little bit like a next step um, out of education on media literacy, who, in your opinion, should be held more responsible on what is shared on the internet and how we verify things and how information is verified? Do you think it's the platforms itself? Do you think the governments should be held more responsible, journalists, institutions, or the individual user? What is your opinion on that?
I think that platforms should be more responsible of the harm they've done to democracies, because they've created a space that was supposed to be a space where we all connect with each other, and it finished or ended up to be the public agora where politics are built and audiences are reached. So I'm not against the digitalization of our daily life, but this kind of digitalization has been controlled by some platforms that designed a model that is created just to make them earn benefits. So it's kind of pervert. It's interesting because we are all there and we can all connect, but at the same time, there is no kind of control of what happens inside the platforms.
I was gonna ask a little bit about your everyday work, how you work amongst your peers, and in Verificat, how you decide what is noise, because I saw that you have like different categories on the website, how you categorize your articles. So you have politics, science, migration, and then you have noise. And I also wondered how you pick the topics and how you think like, this is not worth looking into, or this requires a deeper investigation.
Well, we every morning we start to monitorize the public speech, interviews, parliament, any appearance of our representatives, and also the internet. We find this what you mentioned, that is noise, which is viral disinformation. Yeah, that is spreading online. So how we decide what to check is a matter of impact in numbers. So how many people this message has reached, and in which spaces appeared, or in which platforms or accounts, or how many people have seen it, and also something more qualitative or related to how this message can impact this one person. Because, for example, related to health disinformation, maybe it cannot be very viral, but it can be very harmful for the people who is consuming it. Some disinformation can be very harmful to the person who receives it. For example, recently fact-checked a so-called doctor that recommended people to inject themselves sea from the water from the sea to treat tumors. To us, is a combination of the impact online and the potential impact for the person who consumes this information.
So I also saw what I thought was really interesting, that you don't only just debunk things or look at things which are, oh, this is misinformation, disinformation. You also look at trends which might be harmful for especially younger people. I saw that you had an article about the beauty trends which are going on TikTok, and which leads to young girls using a lot of skincare products, or younger boys or teenage boys consuming media towards very male focused, like alpha bro kind of these kind of trends, which, yeah, then again just enforce the stigmas of men are like this and women are like this. So do you also feel like this is, because I think this goes outside of verification and debunking, right? Like this is also some kind of work you do in order to just, yeah, prevent harmful content for young audiences. How do you find this? Are you chronically online and do you have people in your editorial team who's just scrolling on TikTok for teenagers, or how do you find this content?
Yeah, sure. We are chronically online. That's our area of journalism. We cover the internet somehow, and we look for trends we look for claims that may be verifiable or may need some context added. And this is also a trend that we see among all the European fact checkers, that we are starting to focus a lot on narratives and trends that we can kind of prevent our audiences and tell them, look, if you see this online, don't believe it because this and this. So the structure is the same as fact checking, but it's kind of, yeah, provides information about what future content can be talking about. And we see these trends either in small groups of the internet or in other countries, or yeah.
I was also gonna ask you about the mental health aspect of doing this kind of work. So, do you ever get tired of constantly pushing back against mis and disinformation? You were mentioning before that amongst your peers, you're also wondering now about the impact of your work. No one's believing anything anymore. You said you're really worried. How do you deal with that frustration?
Well, it's hard because it's very easy to spread disinformation, and it's very consuming to verify everything. And that's one part. Another part is that often disinformation is communicated together with hate speech messages. So that puts fact checkers in front of a very mean face of humanity. And yeah, and the third place, there is this feeling that what you do may be useful, but you are not very sure about the future of our work and the impact that will have in other people.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So usually at the end of the podcast, we ask investigators, researchers, if they have a tool or digital technique, some kind of practice they use on a daily basis or something that they find very helpful. And yeah, is there something you use every day and this is like the core of your work, or just a tool you find like this makes your life easier?
Well, we've started to use AI to transcribe interviews, or there is some tools that help you identify or summarize some online content. So I would also recommend young journalists that are more used to AI or technology to think critically how to use them in their favor, and not follow not to use it as the tools want you to use it, but use it in your own good. So that would be my advice, because any tool that I can recommend specifically will be outdated very soon, but there is plenty of things out there that may seem not to be very useful, but at the end of the day, if you use it critically and consciously, it may be a good co-worker, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopping on the next advice, for any listener who is inspired by your work and maybe wants to enter journalism or fact checking, is there any kind of advice you would like to give someone who wants to pursue this path?
Yes, our work is very necessary, and if there is always people that is trying to avoid us doing it, it means that it's painful for some kind of powers, and that, yeah, nowadays journalism is not only TV, radio, or newspapers and going after the same kinds of information that we are used to, but there are plenty of things that you can cover that may be of interest. I think that one of the major problems that journalism has nowadays is that they are criminalizing young people, and they say that the younger generations are always online and they are not prepared to the real life or whatever. And I think that at the same time, kind of older approach to journalism is making mainstream media a little bit disconnected to the audiences. So yeah, I think there is a big need of young people looking at reality in a different way, and reality is not only offline but mostly online nowadays, and everything happens online.
Okay, Alba, this has been super interesting. Thank you for your time and your work you do at Verificat. I think it's super important. And yeah, it's been an absolute honor to have you on the Intelligence Spotlight series. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been nice conversation, and good luck with your next episodes.